On the night of May 3, 2014, a 26-year-old single mother named Emily Carter was working the late shift at the Ridgeway Fuel Mart, a quiet, roadside gas station nestled along Brookhaven Road in the peaceful town of Crestfield, Oregon. Emily was well known in the community for her gentle demeanor and dedication to her job. She was working alone that night, a common practice in this low-crime area, just a few minutes from the Crestfield Police Department. No one expected anything to go wrong. Just before midnight, a familiar local customer pulled into the station. After parking his car, he entered the store to buy snacks. But the counter was empty. At first, he figured Emily was on a quick bathroom break, so he waited. But when 5 minutes passed and the eerie silence persisted, concern crept in. Curious and worried, he stepped behind the counter to check the back. There, he found Emily's purse, her jacket, and cell phone, but no sign of her. He called out, searched the aisles, even peeked into the restroom. Nothing. Fearing something had gone terribly wrong, he called the police. Minutes later, a Crestfield officer arrived and began his inspection. There were no signs of forced entry or struggle. The cash register was untouched, every dollar in place. The store's safe was sealed. Yet Emily was gone. Emily Carter wasn't just an employee. She was a devoted mother to her 4-year-old daughter, Lily, and engaged to her high school sweetheart, Ethan Granger. She was beloved in Crestfield, known for her sweet nature and dreams of becoming a nurse. Her disappearance shattered the town. Emily's mother, Martha Carter, spoke to local reporters in tears. She would never leave Lily. I know she's out there waiting for us to find her. I just want my baby back. Ethan, her fiancé, spoke at a candlelight vigil. I miss her every second. Lily misses her. We're not giving up. She didn't just vanish. But the investigation quickly hit a wall. The gas station, shockingly, had no interior security cameras. When asked why, the owner shrugged. We didn't think we needed them. It was an oversight that would haunt the case. Police brought in tracking dogs. Emily's scent was traced to the back of the store, then vanished, like she'd been plucked off the earth. A small bloodstain was found near the dumpster behind the station. DNA confirmed it belonged to Emily. With no suspects, no footage, and no solid leads, the search stretched on for months. Volunteers scoured nearby woods, fields, and lakes. Flyers papered the town. Her face appeared on the evening news. But she never turned up. Then, nearly 2 years later, on April 10, 2016, in a nearby town called Marlow Ridge, a 17-year-old girl narrowly escaped being abducted. She described a silver van, a middle-aged man who tried to lure her in. Thanks to her quick thinking and a detailed description, police arrested a local resident, Daniel Royce. Royce, 47, worked in a local factory. He had no criminal history. But what police found in his van and home would turn the investigation on its head. In the back of the van, handcuffs, duct tape, restraints, zip ties, gloves, sedatives. Royce claimed they were personal items for recreational use. But on his laptop, police discovered a disturbing folder labeled Gems. Inside were subfolders named with women's initials. One was labeled DC. Inside, dozens of images of Emily Carter, pulled from her social media, alongside folders of graphic torture content, abduction videos, and plans. The date that DC folder was created? May 3, 2014. 1 year after Emily's disappearance, another woman, 32-year-old Rachel Brinley, had been found dead near Forest Line Trail, shot in the back of the head 3 times. At the time, it was thought to be a hit and run, but now, with Royce in custody, everything changed. Her folder was labeled RB. A neighbor's security footage showed Royce's van near the Ridgeway Fuel Mart on the night Emily vanished. A police sketch drawn from a sighting that night looked eerily like him. Witnesses confirmed he was a regular customer, often making Emily visibly uncomfortable. In September 2016, Daniel Royce was charged with Emily Carter's kidnapping and murder. Prosecutors believed he abducted her from the station, took her to a remote cabin he'd inherited from a deceased relative, and committed unspeakable acts before killing her with a .357 revolver found in his van. But there was a major complication: Emily's body had never been found. This was a no-body case, one of the hardest types to prosecute. But Royce's cousin, David Royce, a former security guard, came forward. He admitted Daniel had shown him Emily's body in the basement freezer, then asked for his help disposing of it. David helped bury her in a wooded area. He led police to several potential sites, but none yielded remains. Investigators believe Daniel, fearing betrayal, moved the body. To this day, her final resting place remains unknown. In court, Royce's defense argued that there was no physical evidence directly linking him to Emily's murder. No DNA, no remains. But the sheer mountain of circumstantial evidence overwhelmed the jury. In May 2018, Daniel Royce was convicted of first-degree murder and kidnapping. He was already serving a life sentence for Rachel Brindley's murder. The news brought bittersweet relief to Emily's family. Her daughter Lily, now 8, is being raised by Ethan and her grandmother. The town of Crestfield changed after that. No longer the sleepy hamlet it once was, it passed the Emily Carter Law, requiring 24-hour surveillance in all convenience stores and gas stations, panic buttons, and a minimum of 2 night shift employees. Each year, they hold a vigil in her memory. The search for her remains continues. Volunteers, friends, and family refuse to give up. Daniel Royce has never expressed remorse. He refuses to speak about where he moved Emily's body. Maybe someday he will. Until then, her memory lives on, a chilling reminder of how monsters can lurk in the most unsuspecting places. I've been working as a security guard at this factory complex in Detroit for about 6 months now. It's not the best job, but it pays okay and keeps the bills covered. I sit most of the time watching cameras, making sure nobody's sneaking around where they don't belong. It's quiet most nights, just me and a bunch of empty buildings. I've been doing the overnight shift 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. since I started. It's rough and sleep, but I manage. The factory is an old place used to make auto parts back in the day. Most of it's empty now, just a few buildings still running, and at night it's all shadows and echoes with rats scurrying around. Sometimes I start my shift checking the doors, making sure they're locked up tight, and then I settle into the security office sipping coffee and watching the camera feeds. Every couple of hours I do a walk around, shine my flashlight into the dark corners, and to be honest, it's boring, but it's money. But one night though, everything went bad. It was cold Michigan cold, the kind that gets into your bones, and I was on my 3rd cup of coffee, feeling tired cause I hadn't slept good the day before, and I was staring at the screens when I saw something on camera 3 out by the back loading dock. It looked like a shadow, moving quick, sneaky, and I leaned closer, squinting, but it was too dark to tell. I remember thinking at first that it could have been nothing, but I saw it again darting across the feed. And I just kind of sighed, grabbed my flashlight and my jacket, and headed out. The factory is a maze at night, big old buildings with alleys between them. I shine my light around, checking the loading dock. The door was shut, no sign of anyone breaking in, and then I walked over to the fence and saw it was intact, with no holes. I figured maybe it was just wind blowing trash around, and I was about to head back when I heard something like a snicker, real quiet. I froze, listening hard, and then out of the shadows they came at me. There were 4 or 5 of them, all wearing masks like Halloween or something like that, and they were younger. I could tell by how they moved. Very jumpy and full of energy, like kids hyped up on sugar. One of them shoved me hard and I stumbled back, almost dropping my flashlight, and before I could even really work out what was happening, another one of them punched me in the gut so hard it knocked the wind out of me. I doubled over, gasping, and then they were all on me, hitting and kicking like a pack of wild animals. I tried to fight back, even swung my flashlight at one of them, but they were too fast. Someone grabbed it and tossed it away before another kid punched me in the face, and I felt my nose crack and I could feel blood starting to come down. I could taste it in my sinuses. I tried to yell, but they kept hitting me. knocking me off my feet over and over. Someone kicked my legs out and I went down hard, pain shooting through my knees and hands as I hit the gravel, but they didn't stop. Their kicks landed on my ribs, my back, my arms. I curled up trying to cover my head, but it didn't do much good. The pain was everywhere and I could hear them laughing loud and crazy like it was some type of game. It was sick the way they enjoyed it. They acted like kids, but mean ones, the kind that had pull wings off of flies just to watch them squirm, and that scared me more than the pain. The way they didn't care, the way they seemed to like it. And this went on for what felt like hours, though it couldn't have been. And finally one of them smashed me in the head, and that's really when everything went black. Just a sudden nothing, like someone flipped a switch. And when I woke up it was still dark and still cold. I was laying on the ground, my face pressed into the gravel. My head was pounding and my mouth still tasted like blood. I tried to move, but my whole body screamed at me. My ribs felt like they were burning and my hands wouldn't work right, and I spat out blood and some pieces of my teeth. They'd messed me up bad. I didn't know how long I'd been out. Those kids were gone, no sign of them. My clothes were torn and my shoes were missing. They must have taken them there. Jordan's 96. I felt for my wallet and it was still in my pocket. Guess they didn't want money, just wanted to hurt me. I got to my feet slow and shaky, dizzy as hell, and every step hurt, but I leaned against the wall and started stumbling back to the office. I kept tripping, my legs weak, my ribs stabbing me with every breath, but finally I made it to the security office, fell into the chair and grabbed the phone. My hands were shaking so bad I could hardly dial 911. I mumbled something about being attacked, gave them the address, and then I just sat there waiting, trying not to pass out again. The paramedics showed up pretty quickly. The lights were flashing and they loaded me onto a stretcher, and they asked me what happened, but my jaw hurt way too much to even really talk at that point. They took me to the hospital and I spent a few days there, all bandaged up. Doc said that I had broken ribs, a concussion, fractures in my fingers, and a busted up face. They even pulled out some teeth and gave me some painkillers and said that I was lucky that it wasn't worse, but I didn't feel very lucky though. The cops came by while I was resting, two of them, one older guy and one younger. They asked me to describe the attackers, but I didn't have much to give. Masks covered their faces and it was dark. I told them they were young, fast, laughing like maniacs, but that was it. They wrote it down and said they'd look into it, but I don't think I ever heard from them again. I guess I knew they wouldn't find those kids. There are too many shadows in Detroit to hide in, and after a few days they let me go home. I was still hurting and I couldn't do much but sit around, couldn't work, that's for sure. I had two kids depending on me and I didn't know how I was going to pay those bills. My daughter, she's 8, cried when she saw me all banged up. My son, 12, tried to act tough, but I could tell he was shook. I told them that I had an accident at work and didn't want them to be scared. Knowing the actual truth, my sister helped out, coming over with food and changing my bandages, and she's a nurse, so she did know what to do. I hated needing her like that though, but I couldn't manage alone. Getting out of bed was a fight every day. My ribs ached, my hands didn't grip right with those broken fingers, and I felt useless, like I couldn't even take care of myself, let alone my kids. I kept thinking about that night over and over. Why'd they do it? Just for kicks? I ain't never hurt nobody and I only was just doing my job. It just didn't make any sense. My boss called and said that they were sorry it happened, said they'd add more security, maybe another guard, and it didn't make me feel much better. The other guards, when I finally went back, clapped me on the shoulder and said that they were glad I was okay, but I saw the worry in their eyes. Nobody wanted to think it could be them next. The cops never caught those kids and probably never will, and it tears me up to think that they got away clean and I'm stuck with these scars. It just ain't right, but what can I do? Life ain't fair, I guess, and I'm more careful now, always looking around expecting trouble, and maybe that's good, keeps me sharp, but it also showed me how quick things can go bad and how you can't always stop it. I just keep going for my kids, for myself, and I guess there ain't no other choice. I grew up in Tucson in the early 1980s. To be honest, I wasn't exactly on the straight and narrow. Ran with some rough kids. A couple of my buddies ended up behind bars, and a few never made it past their 20s. But the ones who got out before it was too late, those were the people I respected the most. The ones who said, no more, before our lifestyle pulled them under for good. I finally decided I needed a way out too. Since driving was what I did best, I applied for a job at a local cab company. It let me make a living while cruising around the city I knew like the back of my hand. By 1991, I was 24 and had been driving fares all over Tucson for nearly 2 years. Most nights were routine. Some were wild. Every now and then, I got a real character in the back seat. One time, this scrawny guy with a voice like gravel flags me down. Turns out, he was a local legend from a biker gang. When I asked why he wasn't on his ride, he looked me dead in the mirror and goes, "Because I've had 12 beers, 4 shots, and I'm too old to spend the night in jail." We both laughed hard. Guy tipped me a 20 and told me to keep my nose clean. But not every passenger was like that. Some of them were the type that made you wish you just kept on driving. One night in particular still haunts me. August 2nd, 1991. About 8:30 p.m. The sun had just dipped below the mountains, and I was cruising down Speedway, getting ready to turn onto Grant Road, heading downtown. Friday night. Always busy. That's when I saw her. A girl on the side of the road, thumbing for a ride. Looked young, early 20s maybe, standing under a flickering streetlight. Hitchhiking at that hour in Tucson? Not smart. Fridays brought out the weirdos. So, I pulled over, honked the horn. She came to my window before I could ask anything and said, "I don't have money. I just really need a ride." Her voice was shaking. I could tell she'd been crying. Something in me couldn't just leave her there. So, I told her to hop in. Said it was on me. "Oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much," she said, almost breaking into tears again. She got in the back, clutching a suitcase, and told me she needed to get to the airport. I introduced myself and asked for her name. She hesitated, then mumbled something I didn't quite catch. I asked if she was okay, even though I knew she wasn't. Turns out she'd just left her boyfriend. 3 years together. Said she was flying to stay with her grandparents in Georgia. Their relationship had started out great. He supported her emotionally and financially. But when she couldn't find work after college, things turned. He got cold. Mean. Controlling. She said the fights became constant. The last one was different. It escalated. He threw some of her things around, and then it turned violent. She bolted, suitcase in hand. As she talked, I felt this surge of sympathy. My own old man used to beat on my mom before he disappeared, so I understood what she meant. "You okay? Need to stop at a hospital or something first?" I asked. "No. He didn't really hurt me," she replied. "Want me to call the cops?" "No," she said, too quickly. That was the first red flag. I tried to convince her to report it. Even if she didn't want to press charges, it should at least be documented. "I just want to leave," she insisted. I started wondering if maybe she hit him back and didn't want to explain that to the cops. "They won't see it that way," she said, then snapped. "Just take me to the airport. I'm begging you." Her desperation made me back off. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling something was really off. "Miss, if you did something bad, I gotta let you out of the cab. Otherwise, I'm an accessory." No answer. Then I heard a click from the back seat. That unmistakable metallic sound of a gun being cocked. I looked in the mirror. She had a handgun in her lap. "Just drive," she said, voice cracking. "I don't want to hurt you. Please. Just get me out of here." I shut my mouth. Heart pounding. I just drove. We reached the airport. She told me to pull over before the drop-off and turn off the engine. Then she said, "Give me your keys." I tried to reason with her. "I need those to make a living. Please." That's when she leaned forward and pressed the muzzle of that gun hard against the side of my head. "Keys. Now. I gave them to her. She climbed out, dragged her suitcase behind her, and walked toward the terminal. I sat frozen until she disappeared into the crowd. Then I bolted to the payphones and called 911, looking over my shoulder the whole time. Cops came quick, but she was already gone. First flight out, probably ditched the gun somewhere in the terminal. My cab company had to tow the car back and rekey the ignition. But I got out with my life. I still wonder what really happened in that apartment. If someone bled out on a kitchen floor that night. Or if maybe, just maybe, she really was the victim of something awful and made one terrible choice too many. Either way, I never picked up another hitchhiker again. I used to be the night operations manager for a small chain of roadside diners in rural Pennsylvania. I've seen my fair share of strange late-night incidents, drunks, fights, weirdos, but nothing prepared me for what happened one snow-blown night in 2017. I wasn't there when it happened. Two of my best employees were. The place sat off Route 119, open 24/7, bordered by dense woods, cornfields, and a stretch of road that felt like it belonged to another world. After that night, both employees quit, refused to speak about it, and gave the police their statements before disappearing from everyone's lives. All I had were the security tapes, a few chilling notes from law enforcement, and 1,000 unanswered questions. I still think about it. I still regret watching that tape. The night was one of those brutal northeastern winters. Winds howling, snow stacking up like walls around buildings. Hank was our line cook, a quiet man in his 40s, dependable, worked nights to support his family. Claire, the waitress, was in her mid-20s. Tough, smart, and could shut down a rowdy crowd with just her eyes. That night, they were alone. Just the two of them, manning a mostly empty diner surrounded by snow and silence. I got the call around 3:15 a.m. The dispatcher's voice said police needed access to the diner's office. "There's been an incident," she said. My blood went cold. No details. Just, bad, and, your employees were involved. I tore through the storm to get there, headlights bouncing off the swirling snow. I had no idea what I'd find. I figured it was a robbery, maybe a drunk who'd pulled a knife, or some late-night domestic mess. But what I saw, nothing prepared me for that tape. When I arrived, a state trooper was waiting. We headed straight to the cramped office in back. Old tube TV, dusty recorder, analog tapes. He told me they needed the footage for evidence, but wanted a look first. I rewound to the timestamp, 2:32 a.m. pressed play. At first, it looked normal. Claire was cleaning tables, Hank washing the grill. Quiet. Calm. Then the door opened. Two men walked in. Late 20s, maybe early 30s. Big coats, faded jeans. But it wasn't their clothes that stuck with me. One had a jagged scar stretching from his ear down his jaw. The other's eyes were pure black, like nothing behind them was human. They sat at the counter like they were just tired travelers. Claire walked over, smiled politely, took their order. Hank cooked, his back to them. The men ate in silence. Then, without warning, the scarred one pulled a handgun. The other followed. Pointed straight at Hank and Claire. They didn't say anything. Just motioned for them to move. Claire's mouth fell open, eyes wide, frozen. Hank looked like his soul had left his body. They were herded behind the counter, through the kitchen, and toward the walk-in freezer. At first, I thought the guys were going to trap them in there while they robbed the place. But instead, they followed them in. And shut the door behind them. That steel door stayed shut. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 37. I fast-forwarded the footage, the camera pointed squarely at that closed freezer. No movement. No sounds. Just silence. What were they doing in there? That freezer was barely big enough for 4 people to stand shoulder to shoulder. My mind raced. Were they torturing them? Threatening them? Making them do something unspeakable? Finally, after 37 minutes, the door opened. The two men stepped out. Calm. Relaxed. The one with the black eyes glanced around the diner, then adjusted his coat. They didn't touch the register. Didn't take $1. Just walked out. Gone. No robbery. No chaos. Just 37 minutes locked in a walk-in freezer with Hank and Claire. 15 minutes later, one of our regulars, a trucker named Rob, came in. He looked around, confused, waited a bit, then started poking around. Eventually, he opened the freezer. What he saw made him jump back so hard he knocked over a stack of trays. He ran to the payphone and called 911, then ran back to shut off the grills. 2 cops arrived minutes later. One of them slowly opened the freezer. Claire stumbled out. She was shaking violently, both hands pressed over her eyes, refusing to look at anything. The officer had to hold her upright. Hank came next, one hand covering his face, the other reaching back toward the freezer door like he was trying to go back in. The officer yanked him away. Hank struggled. Tried to fight. Like something in that freezer was safer than what was outside. Claire curled into a booth, still hiding her face. Hank was placed in another booth, staring down at the floor, hands clenched so tight they turned white. They didn't speak. They didn't look. The EMTs came and took them away. Even outside, neither removed their hands from their faces. I tried to see them the next day. Hospital said no visitors. I called. No answers. Then one by one, they both quit. Claire moved out of state to live with family. Her mom later told me she barely spoke, just short sentences, always with the lights on. Hank vanished. His wife said he stopped talking, stopped eating, then packed up and left. No note. No goodbye. The police never figured it out. No injuries. No robbery. No motive. Nothing. Just 2 strangers. 37 minutes. And 2 lives ruined. The tape didn't show violence. But something happened in that freezer, something so awful they couldn't bear to live the same lives afterward. Rumors spread, gangs, cults, government experiments. I heard it all. But I watched that footage. I saw the look in Hank's eyes as he tried to go back into that freezer. And I knew, some things aren't meant to be understood. The diner's still there. New staff, new regulars. But I never go inside. I still have a copy of that tape. And I'll never watch it again. I was 19. A broke college dropout with a rusty sedan, a flip phone, and a job delivering pizzas for Marco's down on Elm. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid for gas, frozen burritos, and the occasional 6-pack. Most nights were rinse and repeat, delivery after delivery to familiar faces. Same tired cul-de-sacs. Same faded welcome mats. Same old $3 tips. But one night stuck with me. The kind of night that crawls back into your thoughts when you're alone. The kind that reminds you the world isn't always what it seems. It started like any other shift. I got a small order around 9:30, just a chicken parm sub and a slice of pepperoni. The name on the ticket was M. Fletcher. No big deal. What caught my eye was the address, 1120, Ash Willow Lane. I didn't recognize it. Turned out to be a dead-end street on the edge of town. I punched it into the GPS and hit the road. Now, Ash Willow Lane wasn't like the other streets. The farther I drove, the fewer streetlights there were. The houses thinned out. Tall trees leaned over the road like they were trying to whisper something. I remember turning the corner onto Ash Willow and immediately feeling off. The kind of off that makes you check your rearview mirror twice. The air was heavy, like before a thunderstorm. I found the house easily. It was small, maybe a single level. Set way back from the road, almost swallowed by shadows. The porch light flickered dimly, barely illuminating the cracked steps. And right next to it, another house. But that one was different. It looked abandoned. The grass was waist high. Windows boarded up. Bushes clawed across the walkway like they were trying to hold the house down. Two houses, side by side. One barely hanging on. The other already lost. I parked and grabbed the pizza bag. As I stepped out, the cicadas stopped. Just stopped. I didn't think much of it at the time. I walked to the porch. The door was open. Not wide, just a few inches. Enough to see that the hallway beyond was dark. Then I heard it. A piano. Soft. Uneven. It was playing this haunting little melody, slow, like a child practicing a lullaby, but with a couple wrong notes that made it feel wrong. I froze. Hello. I called out. Nothing. I rang the bell. No answer. Knocked. Still nothing. The piano kept playing. That same off-kilter tune, again and again. I figured maybe the customer was elderly, hard of hearing. I walked around the house to the backyard to knock on the back door. That's when I saw it. The yard was trashed. A rusted swing set bent sideways like something had crashed into it. Broken garden tools scattered across the grass. A tire half buried in the dirt. The back door was closed, but through the window, I could make out what looked like a mudroom, cluttered with old coats and boots. I knocked. Hard. Still nothing. The piano continued to play. Relentless. Like whoever was inside didn't care that someone was outside calling out their name. I walked back to the front, phone in hand, and called the shop to double-check the address. The manager confirmed it. That's the one, he said. M. Fletcher. So. I did something I wish I hadn't. I stepped inside. Pizza's here. I called out. That's when the piano stopped. Total silence. For a second, I thought maybe someone had finally heard me. Maybe they were on their way to the door. I waited. But then, from deeper inside, a voice called out. Over here. Then, like nothing had happened, the piano started again. Same melody. Same wrong notes. I stayed by the front door. Sir, I'm at the entrance. You can come get it from here. Another pause. Then the voice came again, slower this time. Yes, sorry. I have trouble walking. Could you bring it in here please? I hesitated. My stomach sank. Something in that voice didn't sit right. There was no strain, no cough, no old man wheeze. It was smooth. Flat. Like it had rehearsed those words. Still, part of me felt bad. Maybe the guy really was disabled. Maybe he did need help. What room are you in? I asked. Another long pause. Then. If you just walk through the living room. I'm in the dining room. I didn't want to go in. Every part of me screamed not to. But curiosity, that teenage, invincible kind of curiosity, got the better of me. I stepped through the hallway. The living room was dark. Heavy curtains sealed the windows. Dust hung in the air. Furniture was draped in sheets. I could just barely make out the shapes of couches and a cabinet. Then I saw the doorway to the dining room. The piano music was louder now. It echoed faintly through the old walls. I didn't go in. Instead, I leaned just far enough to peek around the corner. The dining room was empty. Well, almost. The piano sat against the far wall. But no one was playing it. The keys were moving on their own. No hands. No body. Just keys pressing down, one by one, like invisible fingers were dancing across them. And then, they stopped. No sound. No voice. Just an open, empty room staring back at me. I didn't say a word. Didn't scream. Didn't think. I turned around, fast, and walked straight out. Didn't shut the door gently. I slammed it. Locked my car the moment I was inside and tore down that street so fast I nearly ran a stop sign. When I got back to the shop, I dropped the pizza bag and told my manager, "That place is empty." He raised an eyebrow. I didn't explain. No one ever called about the order. No complaints. No missed meal reports. But later that night, when I couldn't sleep, I looked up the address. The house had been foreclosed 3 months earlier. No power. No residents. No Mr. Fletcher. Supposed to be vacant. So whatever was playing that piano, whatever called me inside, wasn't supposed to be there. And I sure as hell wasn't supposed to follow the music. I never delivered to Ash Willow again. I never wanted to. Sometimes, when I'm driving late at night, I pass a street that looks just like it. Dark. Forgotten. Lined with trees that seem a little too still. And sometimes, just sometimes, if I turn the music off and listen real close, I swear I can still hear the piano,